What's going on, guys? Pat here, and in today's video we are taking the Cutlass to its first traditional autocross. So as you guys saw in the last video, we took the car out to one of my favorite small tracks, which is the Lime Rock Autocross track, to really just shake this thing down and start turning its first miles of pushing it, beating on it, things like that, to see what major issues arose. Do we have any reliability concerns, things like that. And overall it went well. I only got to turn 3 laps, which were those 3 at the end of the video, which was just kind of because of the way the event was structured. The car didn't break or anything. It was just by the time I jumped in the car, it was that time trial session. So I got that one session in, and then there was like an hour plus wait to do another one, and it really wasn't worth it. So my dad got to turn a lot of laps. We made some setup tweaks, but overall the car felt really good. The big areas of concern was really just the rear suspension. The car wanted to come around on you every time you would initiate into a turn, like right on entry. And I think that is an issue with the rear shocks, that they just need to be stiffened up. I never stiffened up compression rebound when we took it off the trailer. So I'm gonna make some tweaks before we autocross, and I think that'll resolve it, but I'm not entirely sure. But I really think that's all it is. It's just as simple as giving it a little more stiffness as far as compression and rebound. But regardless, today we're going to be taking it to its first regular autocross. There's a local autocross club called Connecticut Autocross and Rally Team that runs here in Connecticut. Back when I had my E92 M3, I would autocross with them, and I've been dying to get the Cutlass out for a few years now with them, and just hasn't lined up. The car's been broken, or when the car has been ready, there hasn't been events, things like that. And since we got the car fired up with the LS7 on it, they've actually been on a hiatus because they lost one of the lots they were using. So today they're running up at Thompson Speedway Motorsports Park, I think is the official name. We always call it Thompson here. And I'm excited. They're using one of the paddocks there. And it's going to be interesting because it's a very small course. They always set up super tight courses on this paddock because it's really not big. Next weekend they're going to be doing a track cross, which will be a lot of fun. I'll be filming that as well. But today is going to be just an autocross. I have no idea how it's going to be as far as will the car be competitive or not. The car is unique because they run grouped classes. So instead of SCCA classes like this running in KMT, they group several SCCA classes together based off packs. And that way there's just better turnout, I guess, for each class. You know, you don't have a bunch of SCCA classes, so there's only 1 or 2 cars. That you have these CART classes where it's like C1, or I think it's C0, C1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and they have some open classes. But so that way it's everybody has a class to run in and people to compete against. It's not just a bunch of empty classes. So I believe KMT sits in the middle of the PAX index for the class of C5, which is what I'll be competing in. You know, the car feels like it rotates pretty good, but it's probably going to be a lot of very sharp, low-speed turns. That's just the nature of this courses when I've looked at videos from years past of them doing autocrosses here. So I really don't know what to expect. The car feels good, but it's not the most nimble thing in the world, and especially with 700 horsepower, it's a bit of a handful, especially down low. So I'm just kind of going in open-minded. You know, it'll be a good experience to put it in these conditions, test it, see what changes we can make, you know, play with shock settings, see what it's going to do, things like that, play with the brake bias, all that good stuff. So we're going to load the car up, take it out there, and I'll put in the clips of us running, and then I'll catch up with you guys after we're done. well, made it back. Definitely a long day up at Thompson. I think it's like 7 o'clock now. We left at like 7 this morning, so I'm pretty tired. It's a fun way to spend a Sunday, but also an exhausting way. I definitely like to take it easy to end the weekend, but when you're racing, you don't get to do that, but I guess it's worth the trade-off. So, surprisingly, we won our class. I was really impressed. I took the win in the C5 class by, I think it was 2/10 in the end. I did a 29.237, I want to say. I don't know. I'll have the times with the runs in the previous part of the video, so you can see it there. But yeah, I definitely did not expect that. It was a very tight course, but the car felt pretty good. The car didn't feel super loose. The back end had a good bit of grip. If anything, it was plowing a little bit on the front end. So I don't know if I need more static camber or if it's just a shock setting change. I mean, I had the front rebound set pretty stiff. These are only single adjustables, so maybe I do need to get the matching triple adjustables for the front. But overall, the car felt pretty good. I mean, it was definitely a handful, you know, trying to put the power down. It was spinning all the time and stepping out on me, which you guys probably saw in the video, especially my first couple runs. I figured putting it in second gear would help tame the power a little bit, but that absolutely did not happen. It was just all over the place and kept wanting to come around on me. But we didn't really make too many setup changes throughout the day. I didn't touch the rear sway bar. We made some shock setting changes, but that was really it. You know, I'm a big believer in just refining driving and adapting my driving to get the most out of it instead of driving the same way every single time and just constantly making setup changes. I definitely displayed my worst driving trait, which is I have a tendency of over driving. When I jump in the car, you know, I'm all amped up, my adrenaline's pumping, and I just want to get after it. And so I tend to overdrive, and then I have to reel it back in. And, you know, it's the saying of driving slow to go fast. And that's definitely the case, because as I started slowing down and being smoother and being less amped up and really just trying to send it, I picked up a bunch more time, and that's when I laid down that run of a 29.2 something, which kind of came out of nowhere. When I did that, I was sitting with like a 9/10 advantage for most of the day, which shocked me. I thought when I saw that time, I was like, how many cones did I hit? But when they said it was clean, I was kind of blown away because I didn't think the car had that in it. I mean, once we did that, I was hoping to get down into the 28s, but I just kept pushing and pushing, and I was losing time. So, I mean, a 28 was definitely out there. It was just a matter of me making it happen, which ultimately I didn't, but it is what it is. I'm just kind of splitting hairs at that point. You know, we got the win. I'm really proud of how the car did. And this is its first autocross outing ever. I've never had it on a traditional cone autocross like that. So I'm really proud of doing that. That was my first time doing an autocross like that in, I think, 2 years. Over the pandemic, we had done a couple with C.A.R.T and my M3, but no, the Olds is together. I'm excited to run with them a lot more regularly. So I'll be posting more videos and stuff like that on the channel. But yeah, I mean, car did good. No issues, no breakage. Nothing like that. My dad and I co-drove it, and we drove it hard all day, and it took it. There was really no big issues. Locked up tires a couple times under braking, but there's no flat spots. You know, I don't know. I'm just really impressed. I don't really have much to say. It was just pretty straightforward. We went, we drove it, beat on it, loaded in the trailer, took it home, and all is well. And I guess it's nice. Actually, one thing I didn't talk about is the brake pad knockback issue. Which was something that had happened at Lime Rock, and I guess we've kind of resolved it, though. It may have just been the way the course was laid out didn't really accentuate the problem. But for those of you who don't know, the rear rotors on these cars, on the regular style live axles, are non-floating. They sit directly on the axle flange, which obviously goes into the rear end, and on those wheels, it sits on a wheel bearing, which is then retained by a plate, which is what holds everything in. And when you're cornering on sticky tires, it's moving that axle shaft in and out, which is in turn moving the rotor, which then in turn moves the brake pads, hence the name pad knockback. And it basically gives you a really bad brake pedal feel. So if you go through like a slalom or some of the turns like at Lime Rock on the autocross course, you would go into the next corner and you would hit the brakes and basically have no brakes. You'd have to hit the pedal to the floor to kind of prime them, and then you'd have them back. Which is horrifying when you're pushing a car hard. You know, brakes are one of the most important things, if not the most important thing, to have working well and sorted out. So we had put in a 2-pound residual pressure valve, which basically just keeps 2 psi in the rear lines. And it's a bit of a band-aid fix. The long-term fix is going to be either doing a floater rear end or like an IRS or something like that. But that's something I'll think about during the winter. It's not really a concern for the rest of the year. I'm just trying to limp it through. So the residual pressure valve, when we put that in there and re-blood it, it's felt good. It didn't feel like it had any more knockback issues or anything, but I don't know if that's because the residual pressure valve is actually doing something, or if that's just because it was a bunch of super tight, like hairpin turns today, and I didn't really have a chance to make the knockback issue, rear its ugly head. But oh well, it is what it is. We'll be back at Thompson next weekend. Today's the 16th, so we'll be back on there the 23rd for CART's final event of the year, which is a track cross. So it'll be an autocross in the same paddock, so similar to what was today's video. And then it finishes going out onto the actual Thompson road course and uses, I think, the final 3 turns. So that's gonna be really exciting, and I'm really excited to do that because the power that makes this thing a nuisance on tight autocrosses will give it a big advantage on the road course. So if we were able to pull out the win in C5 and be somewhat competitive in class today, I'm really excited to see what we can do when we get into a layout and configuration that actually suits this car. So that's gonna do it for today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Just pretty simple. Wanted to get some coverage of a local event I'm running. This is pretty much all I'm doing for the rest of the year, is just doing these local events to really get a feel for the car and figure it out. But yeah, that's all I got for you guys. So I hope you enjoyed the content, and I'll see you guys next week with the track cross coverage.